Welcome again, guys. This is RD Calamity, and we're here on the Rabs Crew channel, starting a brand new series, something I'm very passionate about, Warframe. Now, Warframe is a wonderful story, wonderful game. It's been around since 2013. It's celebrating its 11-year anniversary this year, and for that, I feel like I'd jump in. I've been playing Warframe since right before the 3rd year anniversary on PS4. I have quite a few hours, 700 and 73 to be exact in it. I'm pretty well versed in this game. And the one thing that got me really into this game was actually very, very simple. It was the lore. I played the game very vividly for almost a year and a half without ever understanding the mechanics of the game, just killing things and moving on. And the lore is what kept me going. Now, the lore isn't given to us in one straightforward story. It's not given to us in one cohesive story. It's given to us in bits and pieces, and we got to figure out the way it goes from what we find out of the game. So, with that being said, mind you, spoilers are ahead. If you want anything to know anything about the lore, you can go ahead and write it down, message me, put it in the comments. I don't care how you do it. And I'll try my best to answer it. Now, there's going to be a little bit of gameplay in here every once in a while. Just to keep the flow going. I want to try to keep it as positively to the right way that I can. So this is the Tales of the Tenno, Part 1. The beginnings of the Oricon Empire. Now, many, many centuries ago, in a solar system quite like our own, called the Origin System, there was a very advanced set of civilization called the Oricon. Now, the Oricon went through everything. They started conquering planet after planet. They were the supreme beings, to a point where it wasn't enough to just be Oricon. You had to be a high-level Oricon in order to have any stature. It was a hierarchy based on a combination of military strength and monetary goals. But what it comes down to is one simple thing: resources. Now, what the Oricon were known to do is they would completely devastate planets by basically just draining them of every single resource that they had. And they used these resources in the combination of their machines, their technology. They were highly, highly advanced. The Oricon Empire's base of operations was on Lua, which to us would be our moon. They made Lua very, very decrepit, as you see. But this was their base. This is where they started their shit. Now, Oricon Empire ran for hundreds, thousands of years. And they started getting to this point where they are escaping to the ends of the solar system, and they come across this thing called the Void. Now, the Void is a very special thing. The Void is very tumultuous. Basically, it destroys or causes electrical malfunctions. The problem is that the Oricon can see what's on the other side of the Void. The other side of the Void is this whole new solar system called the Tau system. And in the Tau systems, all these resources, everything that they've already depleted, because they've spent centuries just diminishing everything, going through planet after planet, breaking them down. The Oricons were highly advanced intellectually, and it shown in multiple ways. They developed ungodly things when it comes to advancement, such as solar rails to quickly go between the planets. They made it so that they were the higher ups, the people who could afford these. made it so they were immortal. They, through a practice that included one of their fuel sources, which is kuva, they used kuva in a kind of like immortality ritual, and they made so that they really didn't get sick. They really didn't die. And it basically is this thing. Okay, so their body died, but their mind did not. And with the kuva, the Orokin used the kuva for continuity. A ritual that was used to transfer the Orokin's consciousness into a new, younger body once their body becomes too old. So basically, they're body swapping centuries and centuries through. What they would do is they'd shatter the mind of the dominant host, and they would replace it with the Orokin's consciousness, known as the Yuvan. And that is how they kept going. So you'll have Orokin leaders who are thousands of years old, and then you have the lower tier Orokin, which died, and they were done. Then the Orokin started using cloning facilities and creating these clones, and these clones were known as the Grineer. Now, the Grineer were the military force. Those were their grunts. That's how they were able to expand the way they were, because they were clones. The other faction that we have to come to account of during this time is Corpus. Corpus was the lower end Orokin, but still kind of higher up there. They still had some money. They were still able to do stuff. They bought and traded. They were Wall Street. Corpus was Wall Street. Grineer was the military. And the Orokin Empire was the government. Let's put it that way. Corpus made the Orokin money, which paid for the creation of the Grineer, which got more resources, which included more land and more things for the Corpus to use. A big, wonderful circle. So with the hierarchy of the Orokin, there were emperors, but basically the emperor was more of like the face. Mostly things were judged by the Seven, which was a group of executors, which is kind of like their higher-ups. They would be the one to pass down judgment for anything and everything. And the Orokin were very corporal punishment to everything, extreme to the extreme. You know, steal something, lose your hand, lie about something, lose your tongue, and most of the consequences would end in death, with the especially heinous ones receiving the death executed by the Jade Light. And we'll get farther into the Jade Light further down the stories in another episode, but basically what you need to know is the Jade Light is, for all intents and purposes, a disintegration ray. Nothing survives the Jade Light. Now, the Orokin had been happy. They had created an empire that stretched light years and millennias. And what happens with every empire once it starts getting too big for britches? It wants to expand. Genghis Khan did this with the Mongolians. Alexander did it with the Romans. It happens. But the problem that the Orokin were having is anything they sent into the void didn't come back. And they came to the conclusion that the void was basically destroying everything that went through it. And what basically happens is they decide that they need to figure a way to get through. Now, not all would die. And those who would come back would be infested. Infested by a plague of insanity that would usually kill themselves into it. They'd go nuts. Nothing ever came back. And it was one of those things where they spent years and years and centuries trying to figure this out, and they finally come up with a great idea. Now, this is where things start taking a turn for the Orokin. So the Orokin decided that, hey, we need to send something in that can survive. Not only do we need that, we need it to be able to terraform so that after a certain period, we can go into this and we can survive. And there was a large debate on how to do it, but there was a very big researcher on the Void by the name of Entrati. That was his last name. Aldridge Entrati. Yeah, that's what it was. And he was Albrecht Entrati. He was the first one to actually gain access to the Void, and he was the one who introduced it to the Orokin as what it could do. Now, the way he did it first is Entrati decided that he was going into the Void, and he wanted to prove everybody wrong that it actually existed. It wasn't just something that just kept making things disappear. No, word back means it doesn't exist. He volunteered to go between the wall between the worlds, using a Seriglass bell as a protective vessel. He saw how time was distorted and rippled as he went through. Now, what had happened is he lost every bit. He lost his with going into this well, he lost everything. But it gave them knowledge. That turned him away from the continuity that they had done. He decided he'd never go back. So they start deciding, the Orokin, seeing the potential of this, that they're going to send passenger ships in. One of the most famous ships they send in is the Zariman 10-0. And that's the main focus of our next episode, so I'm just going to give you that. The Zariman 10-0 was a colony ship that went into the Void and disappeared for years. I'm talking about hundreds of years, okay? So, in their quest to try to figure out what they're going to do, the Orokin create these things that were AI. They could adapt to anything that harmed them. They reproduced by fission, which means they literally just split themselves in half. One becomes two. And they called these things the sentients. And the sentients, their goal was to go in, terraform, and come back. But you see, the Orokin knew that something was up. Something wasn't going to be right. If they allowed these things to adapt, sooner or later, AI sentience would happen. So they created a flaw that if they tried to come back through, too much void radiation destroys their reproductive capabilities, and that was put into play by Archimedean parental, in close relation to Executor Ballast. Now, Ballast is going to be a main guy that we can talk about in the next few episodes sometimes, but he's a turning point. Ballast is higher up there in the community. He's in the know. He's one of those that dips his hands in some dirty shit every once in a while to get what's done. Now, what happens is the sentients go into the void, and they go a couple hundred years past. They're doing their job, but sometime during that, the sentients figure it out. They realize that what they're doing is destroying a universe for someone else to come in to destroy it even more. That no matter where the Orokin go, all they lay is destruction. Greedy, money hungry, land hungry. That's all they do is they take. They do not give. Not saying all are bad, but it only takes one rotten apple. Well, the sentients kind of formed together as a group. Mind you, they're in the thousands by now because they've only gone through the void once, so they still can reproduce. So Hun Hao, this warlord, leader of the pack, should we say, by the name of Hun Hao, he sends a couple hundred sentients back through the void. And that's when they figure it out. That once they travel back from the Tau system to the origin system, they can no longer reproduce. They can no longer split and make anew. So whatever passes through, those numbers are set. Okay, they can adapt to almost anything, but that void poisoning brought it so they could no longer make new of them. So the goal with sending those sentients back through the void was to let the Orokin know, we're not doing this for you no more, and as a matter of fact, we don't think you deserve to live either. We're gonna wipe you. For that thought process, the sentients might have been in the right. They might have been in the right. The way they went about it, you're committing genocide the same way they were. And basically there's no give on either side. And that is what kickstarts the old war. I expect it to be a little bit longer. I'll have more information for you guys. Next episode will be Tales of the Tenno, the Old War, where we'll get into the titular title of this series, the Tenno. Remember, that's RM and 10-0. Though we're gonna have a call back to that the next episode as well. Get a little more information on that. This has been RD Calamity. Thank you for watching Tales of the Tenno. Like and subscribe for more lore, and I'll be back with another episode soon. Remember, all is good, Tenno. All is good.